Um, well, yeah, I'm very happy to present the final or the almost final outcomes, not really, as I will show at the end of the presentation, but the preliminary outcomes of our Pagode effort. As you say, Valentina, it is important because it's the surface where all the efforts that happened by all the partners, everyone involved behind the scenes, now also gets a front of scene, and not just a front of scene. I mean, it's Europeana. It's the most important, biggest gateway to Europe's digital cultural heritage. So we wanted to be represented at our very, very best here, as we say in Flanders, in our Sundays outfit. And I can say that we worked diligently on that over the past 18 months. Because what we promised at the very outset of this project is to engage the Europeana community with stories and, of course, intriguing digital objects, pointing to what is or what could be regarded Chinese cultural heritage in Europe. We promised to do that in two different ways. First, by building what was then called a thematic collection, which we historically knew to exist of records as well as editorials. Secondly, we also said that we would feed into existing thematic collections more good quality Chinese content so as to raise awareness with the Europeana users that there is such a thing as Chinese heritage in Europe. Before setting off on publishing or making anything visible to that end user audience, we had to make some curatorial choices. And I've summarized them here in a few bullet points, but you can imagine that these only came to fruition and to blossom by having many conversations with all the partners involved in the project, with specialists, sinologist teams, by consulting a lot of contextual literature, and especially from watching and looking through a lot of digital China collections. So this is, as I now say, something that we devised in the beginning, but there is a process leading up to the formulation of these 6 basic principles. The first of which is that, yes, we chose to focus on socio-cultural, historical topics, so everything related to arts, traditions, customs, daily life, society, rather than, and I name it explicitly there, political. Not because we think that one is rather more important than the other, but because we felt that because of the nature of our collections and the limited time given within the project, that the political story would be far more difficult to translate in a manner that we would all stand 100% behind. So I think something that has come out of this, an idea for the future, is to also tell those stories, but do it within the perfect time frame and with the right collections. Secondly, and it's already a translation of point number 1, we wanted to have the whole effort to be content driven. The content was selected, as we heard yesterday, to a large extent on the basis of the semantic research performed by the Ljubljana University team. This means that in the end, all goes back to these basic concepts, these shared understandings, and this well-argumented academic foundation of the project upon which content selection was built, upon which curatorial choices were made, and eventually editorials were published. And I am quite proud that we managed to keep this value chain, as I would call it, that we kept it really tight and intact from the very first until the final days of the project. Thirdly, we wanted to make the best of challenging situation, a small partner consortium, a little amount of time, and a lot of promises made. We thought wherever we can make synergies, join forces, make collaborations, do crossovers, there we will be really maximizing our potential. So this means that we were connecting with other aggregators. We were looking what other projects were doing to see if there were some themes recurring in our project. We looked, of course, at the campaigns and the seasonal themes of Europeana, because the more we could drift to the surface of the big pool of Europeana publications, of course, the more beneficial for everyone involved. Then quality is always a basic given when it comes to curatorial choices. Of course, we wanted to go only for the striking photographs and the outstanding artifacts. This is also what you could call follow the trail of the gems. So basically this means watch a lot of pictures, find the ones that really jump out to you, and then go into that track. Who was the photographer? Which collection do they come from? Which other teams do they connect with? So again, go for the highest quality demands. And then finally, it was important, as I highlighted yesterday, to not pretend we are on an island with our China-related collections. No, we are part of a far larger and richer network, and we found it important to balance our new content and existing wider Europeana collections. So how to go about taking all those curatorial choices and then building a thematic collection? Well, we chose to focus not so much on the records, because the records were coming. The records were coming with the new collections. We knew that the new collections were likely to be published quite towards the end of the project. So we thought, okay, let's make Pagode visible earlier by focusing really on publishing editorials. So as you can see, this enabled a double deployment, an early visibility of our project in the Europeana atmosphere, but also the flexibility to interact with the publication scheme of Europeana regarding our new collections, and also the ongoing transformation at Europeana to become a more entity-driven platform. To this end, we devised an editorial, a publication plan, where I try to be as realistic as possible in what we could do with mainly myself as a writer on the project, who was after a few months joined by Julien Menabreas, a colleague from Switzerland who expressed his interest in the project, had an art history background as well as a sinologist and a museum background. For me, he was the ideal companion to have on board of this junk ship. And I think I was proven right in the whole experience. We did manage to adhere to a large extent to this very, very early publication plan. And it allowed us to align partner content with our editorials while still not delaying everything until the end of the project. So what we created on the basis of this plan were browse entry points, so easy step-ins for the audience to discover existing data subsets as well as new subsets of data as they were published. So with the invaluable help of Jolan, I could act very quickly as soon as new collections got published. The browse entry points were such a great way to put them in the limelight for by giving them their own card, their own little tile on the China feature page. Voila, once clicking such a collection, and you can see here what happens if you click the Carl Simon tile, voila, you get this almost curated gallery that is really a visual experience as well. Next to browse entry points, of course, the manually curated galleries. Here I show one that came out of a collaboration with the European Fashion Heritage Association team. They were happy to collaborate with us, publishing this gallery that was a companion piece to a blog on chinoiserie. And then finally, we had a set of blogs with more extensive storytelling, where we, to the best of our capabilities, again, try to mix in partner collections with Europeana content, to use as much open content, of course, as possible, because this further encourages reuse. And we try to make the stories very layered, so that there was something for everybody to enjoy, for China neophytes just as myself, basically, and for people with a basic fundamental knowledge who were curious to discover the specific stories about the Europeana objects. All of these editorial and in time also all the objects with metadata related to China came to be collected on this dedicated China hub that we call the Chinese Heritage Feature page. It's not so much a thematic collection. Perhaps it's even better than that. I don't know, Jolan, if you would agree with that. But we could not have wished for more. This is the space where all the efforts made in the scope of the project somehow emerge, whether in a processed editorial, whether in a treasure trove of beautiful images where you can walk away if you want for a whole week and not encounter the same object twice. This is what our feature page currently looks like, or at least part of it. And to showcase a bit more and explain more of the manufacturing of this page and what's going to happen with it in the future, I asked Jolan to perhaps give us a walkabout in a live demo. Jolan, do you want to share your screen, or shall I surf to the feature page, or what do you prefer?
Yes, thank you. I'll share my screen if that is okay for you. I think that'll be the most logical. Just open the feature page and then I can share that with you all. Yes, there we go. I have set it to French. I don't know why, so I'll set it back to English. You should all be able to see the feature page currently. Yes, good. I see people nodding. That's great. I do agree, Sofie, that I do find the feature pages to be even better than the collections that we had earlier. So for people who maybe haven't don't know the history, I guess, of Europeana collection pages, we used to have thematic collection pages that combined all of the items that were relevant to a certain topic, like art, photography, with all of the editorial that is relevant for that topic. So blogs and galleries would all be visible on a central hub, a central window within this topic, so that people that are interested in heritage in general, but maybe in a very specific part of that, like only photography, would find a nice curated way into Europeana. Since we have millions of items, this really helps with the experience, so that people don't feel lost in this myriad of cultural heritage from all over Europe and they don't know where to start. So the original goal of these thematic collections was to make the experience a bit more curated. When we went to our new Europeana experience somewhere in March of last year, we moved away from that idea of thematic collections because we wanted to look more towards linked open data collections. So these would be entities, collections that were created automatically, not curated, but would still give a small way into the Europeana database. What we did lose with that was a feature page, a hub where you could see all of the editorial on a certain topic collected together. So it was in that kind of moment of, I wouldn't say crisis, but discussion of what we would do now, and of course promises already made in grant agreements about creating thematic collections, that we thought we would just need a page that only collects editorial, a feature page where galleries, blogs, browse discovery points, and other ways into the collection would be found together. So the Chinese Heritage feature page, together with a few others, were actually our first kind of experiments with this. And I must say that I do feel that it came out really well. So we have a nice hero image, some nice introductory text that brings people into the topic and tells them, okay, this is about Chinese heritage. This is exactly what I'm looking for, or not, and then you can browse on. And then the rest of the page is actually a great kind of walk through all of the editorial, all of the different partners and collections that are relevant to what Chinese heritage has to offer in European heritage collections. So we very recently published the exhibition that Sofie will talk about more later, so I will gloss over it now, but that is, what is featured currently on the first few rows. And if you don't find what you're specifically looking for, or if you want to keep browsing, there are literally tens of other tiles, topics, people, concepts, places that you can find more information about. So we've got blogs, we've got galleries, we've got browsing collections, browse discovery points, as we call them. This collects all of the editorial that is relevant to Pagode, or that was created within the Pagode project, but it of course goes further than that as well. Once the Pagode project is finished, and even during the Pagode project's runtime now, we did also add editorial that was about China or that was relevant to China, but wasn't created by Pagode partners. Because this is really a general Chinese heritage feature page, that means that this kind of establishes sustainability for this page even after the project is done. So all of this editorial from Pagode will still be available after the end of the project, but people coming to this page in a few weeks, in a few months, in a year time, will still see new editorial being added. So that does give this fresh new experience every time you say, oh, there's a new blog, great. And for the user, the user often doesn't even know that there is a generic service project behind this, and they don't really have to know, but what they do see is new content being added all the time, which does engage them and make them interested in this type of history, in this type of heritage. Connected to this, of course, there is also a linked open data entity for China, which will also be expanded after the project, and which has a lot of great content that has been ingested by the Pagode project in it as well. And later down the line, when we improve these linked open data entities, because they're still very much an experiment as well, this will provide also a great way into all of the items, all of the objects that you could wish for related to Chinese heritage. So that was my very short and quick run through. I think I'll throw it back to Sofie. Is there anything I forgot or that you would want me to expand upon?
No, I think what I would like to do is to thank you again, Jolan, and your colleague Maggie, because you often have been avalanched absolutely with emails from my side, with again ideas and editorials and collections, and every time a new batch of images came in, I wanted to make it visible as quickly as possible, and you were always so I don't know, so receptive to that and so efficient. So we couldn't have wished for a better partner in this whole visibility part of Pagode. So thank you so much for always being open and constructive in the collaboration.
Thank you. And I think that's what I want to close with as well, is a thank you from our side, because this project is a really great testimony to having maybe not a huge project with a lot of partners and a lot of time, but with a few partners that are very engaged and are very passionate about the collections that they have. This really leads to an amazing, I would say, outpouring of editorial and collections over the past few months that we've, of course, been more than happy to receive and to go through. So also to all the partners, I'd like to say thank you so much for sharing those collections with us. And we've been able to highlight some great stories through them. Right, so back to you, Sofie.
Thank you. So I will continue where I left off. At least I hope to get back to my slide set. Should work, yes. Okay, I wanted to show you this slide. It's one that I used and I just copy pasted from a slide deck I made for the kickoff meeting, where I very briefly set out what we promised in the grant agreement, 10 editorials, namely 1 virtual exhibition, 7 blog posts, and 2 galleries. I think you could see from the feature page that we did deliver on that. So we are currently at 43 editorials, 1 exhibition, 7 blog posts, but 4 are in the making. And this means that the draft text and the draft picture selections are there. And I expect that before the end of September is perhaps a little bit ambitious, but let's say early October, that Julien and I will be able to deliver the final 4. We currently have 12 galleries, but 4 extra ones have already been delivered to Jolan, and I will explain in a minute what that's about. And we have 23 browse entry points, both to legacy Europeana collections and to new partner collections and subsets in those collections. And there is more to come, as you will see in a minute. What I wanted to talk about now for a few minutes is the final sprint that we had when it comes to putting out Pagode content basically over the summer, because we have not been lazy lying in the sun, unfortunately. It has been a really, really busy summer because we had to have an exhibition ready before the end of the project, actually before the final conference. And because of the idea of publishing a book as a physical counterpart to a digital exhibition, being not an extremely similar narrative, but a complementary narrative, the work had to be scheduled so that a book could be finished well in time before the digital exhibition went live. This meant publication time August, so early August delivery of all the content, the story, the picture selection, everything. It was a little bit daunting, to be honest, because at that point the content was not yet, for the larger part, in Europeana, so very much scattered over different platforms. And it takes quite a few days to walk your way through 14,000, 15,000 images to get a good partner representation and to start to see patterns emerge. You know, it's not that you think of a storyline and then you go to all these partner repositories and expect to find what you need. It doesn't work like that. To be honest, it works the other way around. You go through the images again and again and again, and then the stories start to pop up in your head. This was a big work done for the book. And I remember that before I went on holiday in August, I said to Jolan and Maggie at Europeana, I said, guys, the narrative is ready. You know, I just need to revisit the content early in September. I will find a few more Europeana records. I will tweak a little bit the story, and no problem, we will go live on 21st of September. That was perhaps a little bit an underestimation, because early September, a lot of the new partner content came into Europeana and kind of threw me off my chair, in the sense that I didn't want to leave out certain gems that I hadn't seen before and that perfectly fit in with the storytelling. So I did break up the book narrative into smaller parts. I put the parts together in different constellations, and I will show you in a minute a few examples of that. And then I started adding content, and it was like one gem led to another. And this made the exhibition really well fleshed out for the purpose of Europeana and the Europeana target audiences. What we again have is, of course, a multi-chapter setup with a lot of visual material. So we really wanted to go easy on the text, but go big on the visual impact. And we wanted to represent those flows of people, ideas, and objects that have been present and kind of guiding us throughout this whole project. Okay, I think I do have a few minutes to take you to the exhibition. As I explained yesterday, we reused the flagship image of the book for the exhibition because it's so talkative, it's so symbolic of what we wanted to do. But the introduction was rewritten with big kudos to Jolan here, who of course knows his readers very well. So he tweaked what was there in the book to become this engaging threshold that readers will easily cross into this time not 4 themes made up as 4 diptychs, but 7 chapters. And not only that, one of these chapters, Training and Therapy, was completely new. It was a bit of a steep hill to catch, I must admit, at the very end of the time that I had available for the exhibition. It was very, very challenging. But at the end, the inspiration, the objects, the story, it all came together. So if you allow me with a few examples, I will show you how I remodeled the book into this exhibition. As you can see, our hero image is one that you saw in the book, but it has shifted from the second diptych into the first chapter. It's just a small example of how I reused the same ideas, but I contextualized them in a different way. Here, it's very much about this idea of the garden and the nature that then inspires something that is made by human hands, such as here, this tiger balm garden. The story about the spiritual implications of being an artist is something that I elaborated a little bit more here for this exhibition, taking it then from spiritual inspiration through elements of nature, as we saw in the book, to some new illustrations. Like this was one of the new records that I found when I came back from holidays. I saw this from Kikirpa, and I thought, oh my God, this is the ideal illustration for the story about the peach and its importance as a simple symbol of longevity and immortality. So yes, it went into the story. We have this great feature here on Europeana that allows us to put objects as similar but also as different as the one from Benaki and Rijksmuseum in new relationships, visual relationships to one another. You can see that I expanded a little bit the glossary of animal symbols to include, for instance, this rooster, this amazing horse guardian sculpture from the United Archives collection, and some images that you have seen in the book, some others that again I found upon my return. Same kind of mixing. Here I found a dragon in the Wereldculturen collection that I really loved because it was so colorful and such a striking, iconic representation also for us here of what a Chinese dragon entails. New records, I varied a little bit. So I took from the SEM set a different sketch of architectural ornaments featuring mythical creatures than I did in the book. Again, we have here Kikirpa and Benaki that start talking to each other through the voice of the dragon. New dragons taken from the United Archives publication that was made in early September. And as you can see, an added value that we are offering in this online exhibition is these blue buttons, and you will see them throughout the exhibition, where we link whenever possible to other editorials that we already created in the scope of the project. So should you click this, then you go to this especially dedicated Chinese Dragon Gallery that we made early on in the project, and you will find many such examples throughout the exhibition. Perhaps I will not run through everything. Let me jump to number 4. Here you see a hero image taken from the Rijksmuseum. I only thought it was opportune that a monumental, gigantic China collection or at least of monumental importance, such as the one of the Rijksmuseum, it deserves a pride of place also in our Pagode exhibition. I found these new illustrations that I hadn't seen before of the rice cultivation process. I was again very happy with these plates from both Kikirpa and Benaki that kind of combine the Oriental ornamental styles with central westernized scenes and even inscriptions. So it was so great to find suddenly these items in both collections. Then the beautiful cobalt that is resonating both in Chinese and Western porcelain collections, where I was able to even find a vase with Islamic inscriptions and a little vessel made for the Jesuit missions. And then, of course, moving on from purely, or perhaps not purely, but mainly functional porcelain to works of art with this great concocted combined porcelain figure, the porcelain pillow that Jolan especially unleashed his creative energy on. The extra chapter was made because I really wanted to offer a complementary experience. So this is something you don't find in the book. But again, you have a good mix of partner and non-partner content. And what is more, wellness, so therapy in a way, has been a central topic in the Europeana XX project early on when the whole world went into lockdown. We focused a lot on blogs and galleries about well-being in different perspectives. So what I wanted to do is to create this chapter to kind of resonate what we did in that other CEF project. Moreover, the training part kind of refers to the sports campaign that Europeana is currently deploying in a CEF project that it's leading. So I hope that these kinds of energies allow for a broader relevance even of what we are showing here with Chinese records. So yeah, I took as an outset the idea of a healthy mind and a healthy body and what it means in Chinese traditional medicine in different perspectives. So the whole concept of the qi, the vital force, how can you moderate and cultivate your qi if you feel that you're not really balanced or your yin and your yang are not really aligned? Well, there are a lot of methods and disciplines and cures that can help you through it. Of course, what we know very well now here in the West is Tai Chi and all its derivatives, all its different schools. I found in the end, by using many different transcriptions and variations on Tai Chi, I found many illustrations in our partner collections and beyond, such as this beautiful set of movements for Daoyin in the Welcome collection. And then, of course, concepts such as acupuncture that are many millennia old, but became very popular from the 19th century onwards, as you can see here in these academic publications about acupuncture along Chinese traditions. And then, of course, the Chinese medicinal preparations with the very peculiar botanical drawings that you find in the Wereldculturen collection. There are some outlandish illustrations there that are simply beautiful in their graphic qualities. And finally, I was so happy to include a picture also of our favorite confraters of the Top Photo agency in the UK. Voila, I'm almost through. The explorers and the collectors tell the stories of your collections once again by retracing the steps of the people who brought them together and who made sure that we can tell these stories to the Europeana audience today. And finally, the visions and the perspectives are what we like to do with Photoconsortium, really dig into the image and take out what we believe could have been the aims and the perspectives of the photographers at work. And let me show you this really great instance of the promoter gallery engraving from the Thomson book with the photographic original. I mean, this is such a rewarding and a satisfying experience. Voila, I invite you certainly to come again to watch this plethora of pictures in this beautiful high definition. It will be on here for time to come, of course, and will be featured on our dedicated China hub. Now, for the final few minutes, I hope to jump back, if this thing allows me to. I hope to jump back to my presentation. Wait a minute. How can I now?
You can just choose again, share screen or a new share. It should say in orange, you know, where
okay,
you.
Okay, I will stop sharing and
that's
reshare.
okay.
It didn't want to do what I wanted it to do, so sorry about that. Here it is. Okay, guys, sorry about that. Just a few final thoughts, and I thought it was important to formally confirm that we accomplished all of the goals that we had in the beginning of this project with a view to the thematic collection. We did establish that dedicated China hub. We added all the editorials and far more than what we set out to. We deployed the exhibition, and there's another publication to go with it. We also, as I showed in the very first slide, promised Europeana to help them to improve, this is what it was called, improve other thematic collections with China content. And this we did. We had our collaborations and our crossovers. We had our new content integrated in the China Entity Collection. This is something that Jolan took care of personally. And this is something that is new, I think, to most of you. There is an elaborated proposal that I submitted for sustained publication. It's a kind of a roadmap that offers a lot more future ideas for publications using your collections by the Europeana team, because of course we don't really want to move anywhere, but the project formally is coming to a close. And I really wanted to make sure that all the ideas that were still left on my table or that were instigated somehow curatorially, that they fed back to Europeana so that they can make them blossom. To this end, I also used the enrichments analysis that Hugo from Europeana made on the basis of all our work done on the automated enrichments mainly. So I went back to these entities and I proposed a set of entity collections that I think will be most useful and successful. I will share with you all this link to a spreadsheet that I compiled and that I shared with Europeana in order for the compliance report to be really, really perfect. I describe here the rationale of what I did, but basically it's what I just explained. So I did two things. I went into the existing collections in Europeana and the existing editorials that we published in the scope of the project, and I proposed all kinds of crossovers. So where do I think can our galleries and our blogs be usefully reproduced in other feature pages, topic pages, or if you want to call it thematic collections. So for most of our editorials, you will now find several places where they will also pop up beyond the dedicated China hub. Secondly, with the new content that you all provided, I proposed new browse entry points, and you see that there are quite a few with maps of China, colorful souvenir, which is the gouache album from Slovene Ethnographic Museum. There's Ying Dezhen porcelain. There's temple architecture, and there's the portfolio of Zhao Guang. So all these queries have been defined, and it's basically just up to Europeana not only to publish them, but to also link them to other feature pages beyond the China page. Then I also extracted or defined these entity collections, as you can see. I think the most successful ones will be these: going to Beijing, traditional Chinese medicine, characters, emperors, and so on. And here in this column, column C, every time I specified how many records would be in that browse entry points and which partners in this project they will represent. Then I also made some suggestions for new galleries. I already performed a query, so I know that there's a nice set of red lacquerware. There's a great set of cobalt treasures. And there are 4 galleries that I prepared in my personal Europeana account about linearity in arts, China seen through children's eyes, sporty China, and China in motion. Again, all of your collections in one way or another are represented here. Then there are additional blogs. As I said, there are 4 more to come from Julien and myself. 3 of them are in a draft state. The Jesuit missions in China is the last one that Julien is currently working on. And then last but not least, we promised to give some exhibition ideas. And these were my 3 top ideas: to make an exhibition about Chinese music and the performing arts. I only refer to the scores from the Leiden University Library, the opera costumes provided by Ichims, the musical instruments that you found in the Slovene and the Pagode collection. I mean, we could even revisit the chinoiserie topic and so on. The second one is about seeing Beijing through photographic reports, through works of art, through artifacts. You can imagine that the possibilities are endless. And of course, on the forefront of my mind here was this Skusek album with the Ogawa pictures of the Forbidden City. And then finally, I really saw something in an exhibition about the art of writing, language, lettering, and literature, because calligraphy is at the core of so many of the ideas that we discussed throughout the project, and so much of the content that in the end you delivered. There is hardly a picture in any of your collections that is without any calligraphy or any referral to writing in this whole project. So I thought that, yes, a history of Chinese language, transcription systems, calligraphy, the 4 great classic novels, memorable themes that permeate even in non-Chinese literature would be really a good topic for an exhibition on Europeana. And this is indeed the very end of my talk. I think I just made it within the scope of time, which is a huge relief. I want to thank you all for your attention. I know that I talked a lot, but it's the result of what we all did, you know, in 18 months. So it's a huge amount of work. Thanks, everyone.